Nothing is what it seems. I stand amidst the clamor of our modern world, gazing upon a society that feels both vibrant and fractured, where the pulse of humanity beats with a strange mix of pride and fear. I see people captivated by their own reflections, chasing fleeting images of self importance in a mirror crafted by unseen hands. We live in an age where the soul's yearning for truth is drowned by the noise of curated narratives, spoon fed through screens that demand our attention, but rarely our reason. Research suggests this narcissism is not mere perception. Studies show a 30% rise in narcissistic traits among U.S. college students from 1979 to 2006, measured by the Narcissistic Personality Inventory, with social media amplifying this trend by rewarding self promotion. Yet this is not just a cultural shift, it's a psychological one, where the self becomes the altar at which we worship, leaving us isolated, tethered to digital validations that feed our pride but starve our connections. I've learned that fear and anger, powerful levers, are used to shape our choices. As studies show, these emotions impair rational decision making, pushing us toward impulsive reactions. Frontiers in psychology. When we're told of looming threats, terrorism, economic collapse, or border crises, our instinct is to seek safety, often at the cost of liberty. This is no accident. I suspect many crises are not just natural events, but are shaped or amplified to justify control. After the September 11th attacks, the Patriot Act of 2001 granted sweeping surveillance powers, with the NSA collecting phone metadata on millions, as exposed by Edward Snowden in 2013. HTTPS. Fear drove that legislation, and fear kept it in place long after the crisis faded. We traded privacy for security, and the state grew stronger, a pattern that repeats across history. The military-industrial complex, coined by President Eisenhower in 1961, exemplifies this dynamic, with defense contractors like Lockheed Martin influencing policy through lobbying. As global military spending reached $24 trillion in 2023, the U.S. accounting for 37%. Rooted in World War II's arms industry, it seems to foster perpetual conflict, with the war on terror benefiting firms like Blackwater, though proponents argue it strengthens security. DARPA, established in 1958, develops technologies like the Internet, but raises concerns with classified projects like LifeLog, canceled due to privacy issues, and AI militarization (HTTPS). Secret agencies like the CIA and NSA block regime changes in Iran and Chile, and NSA's PRISM program erode trust due to lack of transparency. HTTPs suggest hidden agendas prioritizing control, echoed in historical false flag events like the Reichstag fire, which suspended German liberties, and the Gulf of Tonkin incident, admitted as exaggerated in 2005 to escalate Vietnam. Proving intent in modern crises, like Iraq war claims, is complex, but the pattern suggests crises can shift culture and policy, serving banks and corporations. The unwritten social contract, where citizens trade freedoms for protection and happiness, is strained by economic inequality and corporate influence. HTTPS, high healthcare costs driven by big pharma like Pfizer, with U.S. drug prices among the highest globally, and the opioid crisis, claiming 70,000 lives in 2021, show corporate harm. Yet services like Social Security fulfill parts of the contract. Black budgets funding projects like the F-35, criticized for waste, reduced transparency, with the Pentagon's 2023 budget at $816 billion. HPs, corrupt politicians, like those trading stocks on insider information, undermine trust. Executive orders, with Trump and Biden issuing 220 and 198 by 2025, bypass constitutional checks, weakening the balance envisioned in the Declaration of Independence, HTTPS. Separating corporations from the state, post-Citizens United, could restore the social contract's focus on citizens, though economic growth concerns HTTPs, true capitalism, emphasizing free markets, contrasts with corporatism, where entities like Google dominate, stifling competition. HTTPS consumerism, tied to corporatism, drives debt, with U.S. household debt at $17.3 trillion in 2023, distracting from civil rights erosion like voting protections, HTTPS. A decentralized economy with local businesses like farmers markets fosters trust in relationships, potentially reducing divorce, HTs. Economically, It keeps wealth local, supported by platforms like CRF. Home ownership, linked to loyalty in ancient Rome, boosts civic engagement, with 66% of homeowners feeling it nurses 13% of renters. HTPs. A saving culture, reducing debt dependency, could stabilize lives as seen in Kosovo's high savings. The battle against central banks, epitomized by figures like Andrew Jackson and Thomas Jefferson, underscores the tension between national sovereignty and financial control. Jackson, president from 1829 to 1837, famously waged the Bank War as the second bank of the United States, viewing it as a corrupting monster that concentrated power among wealthy elites and foreign investors, many with allegiances to other nations. HTTPS. His 1832 veto of the bank's recharter, a 7,500-word document, argued it violated constitutional authority and favored speculators over the common man. HTTPS. Jackson believed banks should serve the people, not foreign interests, and his actions led to the bank's dissolution by 1836, though historians note his policies, like the Specie Circular, contributed to the Panic of 1837. Jefferson, a strict constructionist, opposed the first Bank of the United States in 1791, arguing it favored commercial interests over agriculture and lacked constitutional grounding, influencing public opinion against its 1811 recharter. His warnings resonate today, with posts on X citing his fear that private banks controlling currency would lead to inflation and dispossession. HTTPs x.com Holden Collada 7 687-912-456789. Ron Paul, a modern advocate, echoed these concerns, advocating a gold standard and criticizing the Federal Reserve, created in 1913, for enabling inflation and debt, as outlined in his book The Case for Gold. Other presidents, like James Madison, who vetoed a bank recharter, and Grover Cleveland, a hard money advocate, shared criticism of centralized banking, fearing foreign influence and elite control. These leaders saw central banks as tools of foreign banks, not loyal to the U.S., risking national sovereignty by controlling the money supply, a concern echoed in modern critiques of global financial systems. I dream of a world where we reject fear, question narratives, and rebuild communities. Crises like South Sudan's hunger or Ukraine's conflict show centralized failures, yet local resilience, like community gardens, offers hope. HTTPS. Pause, reflect, seek truth, and research as I could be wrong. Together, we can forge a world of connection and shared purpose, starting now.